welcome to members of the audience today. Can I just remind members of the governing body that the meeting will be recorded, sound and video. As you can see, there are microphones around the place. We did have a few problems with the July meeting recording, so please can I just remind everybody to speak as clearly as they can, and if I'm not doing it, please will someone remind me to speak as clearly as I can. It is important because we do make these videos available to members of the public, so please do try and speak clearly. We haven't had any written questions today, but there is time for questions. So do any members of the audience have any questions on any subject for us today? No? Okay, if there's time, and there may be now, if we're starting early, we'll give that chance at the end if there's anything you want to pick up as a result of today's discussion. So thank you very much. We'll get straight on with the actual meeting agenda, if that's okay with everybody. We've had apologies from Dr. Richard Brown, the LMC representative, and we've got a number of changes going on within the governing body. First is that this is Jenny Kay's last meeting. Jenny's coming to the end of her 3-year term in October and will be stepping down, and I'll talk in a minute about the arrangements we're putting in place as a result of that. But before I do, can I thank Jenny for all that she's done for the CCG during her term of office, in particular taking on the chair of Primary Care Co-Commissioning Committee, which I think has got up and running very positively under her chairmanship. So thank you very much, Jenny, for that. But I think more broadly, if I may, thank you for all that you've done to bring a new dimension, a different dimension to the governing body's discussions, both as a nurse, but also, I think, raising issues on behalf of patients and the public. So thank you very much, Jenny, for all that you've done for us. Sadly, this is also Sandy's last meeting. Sandy's stepping onwards, I think, probably is how I put it. Still going to be contributing to the work of the CCG, but in a different role, in a provider role now. Again, thank you, Sandy, for the support that you've given to the work that we've done in your time as the locality director for Chichester. It's the end of the month, so yes. So again, thank you very much, and again, thank you for the support you've given me personally. I should have said that to you, Jenny, too. So thank you both for all that you've done. We've also lost Marie Dodd on secondment for a period. She's gone to SCFT, and I'd like to, we did thank her for her role as the acting accountable officer, but I think we need to recognise the contribution she's made more generally to the CCG. So again, thank you to Marie in her absence. She will be joining us at the AGM this afternoon. I did say I'd talk briefly about the arrangements with Jenny going. So I should inform members that Alison Lewis-Smith will be moving into the role as the independent clinical member registered nurse. So thank you, Alison, for your willingness to take on that role, and that we have managed to recruit a finance and performance lay member, and once the formalities of that process are complete, we'll be announcing who that is. So we're very pleased to have managed to recruit a very high calibre candidate for that role, and that person will chair the Finance and Performance Committee, and Rafe will be moving across to chair P3C to take over from Jenny. So thank you to Rafe for all that he did to get that Finance and Performance Committee up and running, and look forward to the new member joining us shortly, hopefully in the middle of October. Does anyone have any questions about those revised arrangements before I move on to the rest of the meeting? No, good, thank you very much. Members are reminded to declare any conflicts of interest relating to agenda items, in addition to any that have previously been brought to the CCG's attention and recorded in the published register. Does anyone have anything they wish to say at this point in terms of conflicts of interest? No, well, just a reminder again that there is the opportunity to do that should you reach an agenda item where that would be appropriate. Okay, so on to the minutes of the meeting on the 27th of July. Referring to the pages in the board packs, First page of the minutes is on, sorry, page 5. Anything on page 5? Page 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15. I think it's the first time we've got through the entire thing without anybody saying anything, so thank you to everybody for that. On that basis, everybody, congratulations. Everybody happy?
Very good minutes.
Yeah. Is everyone happy that we agree those minutes, please? Yes. Thank you. The action log, again, we've closed a number of those items. Firstly, is everybody happy that we close those that are shown as closed? Yep. And does anybody wish to raise anything on any of the outstanding items other than note the update that's come? Okay, in that case, thank you very much.
Sorry,
Jenny.
Chair. Sorry. Item 14 is just there's no progress report on that. And I was wondering whether there was any progress to report. I say the others all have a kind of up-to-date position on.
And it's, I suspect...
So it's the one about full operation with private care covering the provider step down.
Do we know anything?
All I know is that we're not being asked to provide that cover at the moment, so I think the need to have that in place seems to have disappeared for the time being. But
I think I just want some assurance that...
So I think because clearly it's a relatively detailed operational issue, I'm confident that Marie took the action away, but I think what we need to do is just get that assurance and complete the update.
So we will make sure that that's updated for next time.
So I'll make sure.
Thank you, Ray.
Thank you, Ray.
Ray.
Don't worry about it.
Forgive me. This may be a constant theme. Ray,
just
got that one
to
right.
make sure that Marie's name is replaced by whoever's responsible.
Yeah.
And I think my points were around 7 and 15, particularly 7 because it's actually gone past the due date, and it does just say in July that it's going to remain open, but maybe it needs to move on because of Jenny not being here in the future and having that changed.
It has been, yeah.
I think I should take that on.
It was something we discussed at PCCC, and I think we had certain assurance that there were some systems in place, but I think the final quality assurance framework is not yet finalised.
So let us allocate that on to Ray. So thanks for that. Anything else?
In partnership with Alison, because it's a quality under PCC.
Thank you. Anything else from anyone? Okay, thank you. I will move us on to the Clinical Chief Officer's report. Katie.
Thank you, Kieran. So I'm going to take the report as read, but there are a few points that I wish to highlight. If I could suggest that perhaps we took the detail of conversation around the CCG's financial position and financial plan into the financial recovery item on the agenda. I did want to highlight some of the key risks that face the CCG at the current time. So we are now in a position where we have worked incredibly hard with our acute provider to move away from an activity-based contract for this year. That is very positive for the CCG and for the system on a number of different levels. It allows us to risk share with our acute provider, to work together to manage demand and take real cost out of the system. It allows and makes sure that we manage the risk of massive overperformance on our main acute contract with Western that we have seen in other years. And perhaps most importantly of all, it signals a completely different way of working that forms the foundation of the way we want to work going forward in terms of accountable care and integrated working. It delivers a significant amount of our financial plan. We are waiting to be able to sign this amendment to our contract with our main provider. The Western Board are happy. As a governing body, through the Finance and Performance Committee, we have signalled that we are happy with an aligned incentive contract, but we are waiting for the support of NHS England. While we are waiting for the support of NHS England to sign that off, we are not delivering the implementation plan that make that a reality in terms of taking real cost out of the system and working in partnership with our provider. So I wanted to flag that as a risk. We are a CCG that is in legal directions. Because of our legal directions, our autonomy to make decisions as a governing body, as we are fully aware, is restricted. Clearly we need to work closely with NHS England, and there are a number of questions that they still feel need to be answered, but I did want to flag that while that support remains outstanding, we have a significant risk to our financial position over and above the risk that we have now.
Could I just ask at that point, we may cover it during the finance section, but I think it would be quite helpful for us to understand what the questions are that NHS England has. Unfortunately, I wasn't at FMP this week, but maybe during the section on finance we can just cover, because then we can assure ourselves that we are asking those same questions. And
great. So if we cover that as part of the finance and performance, and of course we've got a more detailed item on the agenda to talk through the aligned incentive contract. I wanted to highlight the substantial progress that has been made in terms of making our system-wide plans to deliver the clinical priorities that have been owned and devised and evidence-based by the system into a reality. So we now have what we're calling the Coastal Care Delivery Plan. It is essentially the delivery and implementation plan of the Coastal Care business case that practically gives us the work plan to deliver the clinical priorities around the ageing population, urgent care, LCNs and prevention, the key enabling work streams of digital workforce and estates. This is a major step forward. This is not, it is a key Coastal West Sussex CCG plan, but it is owned and championed both from a managerial and clinical level from our partners across the system. I wanted to highlight the work that we have been doing as a CCG and collectively looking at the future of commissioning alongside our work to work with partners in a different way to bring planning closer to delivery, therefore meaning that we have a number of opportunities to discharge our commissioning functions at different levels. We've spent considerable time as a governing body in informal sessions talking through the opportunities and looking both most importantly to understand how we preserve the strengths that we have as a CCG in terms of a focus on our population, on a real drive to integrate, but also opportunities to address some of the weaknesses and problems that we've had at a CCG in terms of being able to either deliver effectively and put the right support to the ground or work at scale to avoid duplication. I wanted to add my personal thanks to Marie Dodd. She has been a key member of the CCG team, and both as my Chief Operating Officer and in her role as acting up as Accountable Officer, taking the CCG through incredibly challenging times last year. I wish her absolutely every success in her secondment, and I'm delighted that she will be able to continue to use her skills and expertise within our system to help SCFT on their focus to deliver place-based plans and work in partnership. Again, I did want to flag a significant risk that is facing the CCG in terms of its executive team at the current time. In that 3.5 months ago, we ran a process to recruit a Chief Financial Officer. We were able to successfully identify a preferred candidate, but we continued to wait for NHS England and Treasury approval of that preferred candidate. and although we are very ably served by Margaret in terms of her interim chief officer role, which she has kindly agreed to extend until December, at this challenging time, the CCG needs a solid, substantive chief finance officer, and that is outstanding.
Katie, can I ask, is the candidate prepared to wait for that approval?
The candidate has signalled that they are still interested in the job for the long term, but needs to commit to their existing organisation for the remainder of the financial year, because clearly they hold a permanent senior financial position in another organisation at the current time.
So the candidate couldn't start until April next year anyway. Thank you.
And Jenny and Sandy, I just wanted to echo Kieran's thanks for the unique contribution that both of you have made. Thank you for being part of the things that we have done so successfully. Thank you for helping us understand and address what we need to do better. And thank you for your personal support to me. That's very appreciated. Can you leave it there?
Thank you, Katie. Questions?
Can I just ask, in Marie's absence, because I think she was leading some of the estates development, and I know that she particularly got involved in Morrison Trimmings, but she was good. I just wondered who would be sort of taking over that role here.
And forgive me, because I perhaps should have talked in more detail about a phased approach to making sure all of Marie's responsibilities are covered. Marie's secondment happened at a pace that was not quite as we had expected, but a great opportunity for her came. So we wanted to make sure that we could make that work. So in the short term, as a senior team, we have both looked at how the functions are discharged through the executive team, but looked at how we can step up some of our very competent heads of service, of course, who have the experience and corporate memory and have been with the CCG for a long time to be able to cover Marie's role in the short term. So in terms of the estates portfolio, that will now sit under Margaret, but we will be using the managerial heads of service expertise that we currently have to make sure that that work is progressed and that we don't lose corporate memory.
So Jeff, Larry.
The team that we have at the moment.
Thank you.
In the medium to longer term, I think this also gives us opportunities, as I was talking about the future of commissioning, to understand how we work at different levels, to most appropriately cover those commissioning chief operating officer roles, both in terms of how do we work with our partners at a coastal level and how do we work with our SDP partners. So I think opportunities in the medium to longer term in terms of how we cover that chief operating officer post whilst bridging with using the team that we've got as effectively as we can.
Jan.
Katie, I just wondered whether you could also give us an update on the role of the clinical director.
So, Jen, we'll be talking in more detail at our workshop later today about the next 18 months for the CCG and my recommended plan for the executive cover. That will include an update in terms of the clinical director. I think what is absolutely clear is the need for senior experience, augmented clinical leadership in the CCG is vital. That's been recognised, I think, widely by lay members and by the clinical leadership. We had robust discussion at the last Clinical Innovation and Strategy Committee. How that is discharged, we'll discuss later on this afternoon.
Thank you, Katie.
Okay.
Right.
And really the same question about looking at who is going to be doing what in the accountable care organisation. And so my question is, have you started that discussion as to what organisation will look like, particularly in view of NHS England's non-agreement to the Chief Finance Officer?
So again, at the Governing Body workshop this afternoon, I plan to take us through a plan for the CCG for the next 18 months that includes a full plan in terms of the executive leadership of the CCG and of the emerging accountable care partnership. Taking into account all of those things, and I think, in fairness to NHS England, the process around the Chief Finance Officer is one that needs National Treasury approval, not just the approval of our regional NHS England team, who have given their approval and have been supportive, but we are held in a national process that many other organisations also experience. It does build significant delay into the system, and it does mean that for those successful candidates, that their life goes on outside the organisation and circumstances change, and therefore builds in risk of losing good people.
It's sad. Thank you.
Any other questions for Katie? Okay, thank you very much indeed, Katie.